Judicial precedent is a system where past judicial decisions guide future rulings to ensure consistency and certainty in the law. The doctrine of judicial precedent is the principle where courts must follow legal rules established by higher courts in earlier cases. Civil court hierarchy starts with the county court at the lowest level, followed by the High Court, then the Court of Appeal Civil Division, and finally the Supreme Court at the top. Criminal court hierarchy begins with the magistrates' courts, followed by the Crown Court, then the Court of Appeal Criminal Division, and ultimately the Supreme Court. Stare decisis is the requirement to stand by previous decisions as shown in Donahue v. Stevenson. The civil and criminal courts relevant to stare decisis ensure that lower courts follow the legal principles set by higher courts to maintain consistency. The exceptions to the rule of stare decisis allow the Supreme Court to depart from its own decisions under Practice Directions 3 and 4 and allow the Court of Appeal to depart from its own decisions through the doctrine in Young v. Bristol Aeroplane. Practice Direction 3 allows the Supreme Court to depart from a previous decision where it is necessary to achieve justice. Practice Direction 4 allows the Supreme Court to depart from a previous decision where the law must develop to reflect modern conditions. Young v. Bristol Aeroplane allows the Court of Appeal to depart from its own decisions where there are conflicting past decisions, where a decision has been overruled by the Supreme Court, or where the previous decision was made per incurrime. The rule of ratio decidendi is the binding legal reason for a decision as demonstrated in R v. Howe. The rule of obiter dicta is a persuasive statement made by a judge that is not binding as illustrated in R v. Gotts. The different types of precedent include binding precedent, persuasive precedent, and original precedent. Binding precedent is a rule that must be followed by lower courts as shown in Donahue v. Stevenson. Persuasive precedent is a rule that courts may follow but are not required to follow as shown in R v. Art. Original precedent is a new legal principle created where no previous precedent exists as shown in Donahue v. Stevenson. The different methods of dealing with judicial precedent include overruling, reversing, and distinguishing earlier decisions. Overruling is where a higher court decides that a previous decision from a lower court was wrong as demonstrated in Pepper v. Hart. Reversing is where a higher court changes the decision made by a lower court in the same case as shown in Gillick v. West Norfolk. Distinguishing is where a court avoids following a precedent because the facts differ as demonstrated in Balfour v. Balfour and Merritt v. Merritt. The advantages of judicial precedent include certainty, consistency, fairness, and efficiency. The disadvantages of judicial precedent include rigidity, complexity, slow development of the law, and a dependence on chance appeals. Thank you for watching this video on judicial precedent. I'll see you in the next one.